and welcome to episode 87 of PauseCast. It is June 21st, 2018. I am Jessica Alouette, and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Mark Henna, I use he, him. Welcome.
Hey, I'm Mark.
Hey.
We're once again sitting next to each other, recording this podcast in the same room.
Oh, that's why I've got deja vu. Okay.
You got some deja vu going
Makes
on.
sense.
Okay.
Well, I felt like we'd done this before. Mysteriously.
It's weird that maybe we would think that we've done this before.
I suppose you did just say episode 87, so
yeah.
that should have tipped me off.
I think there was 86 other times that we did this beforehand.
Okay, I'm seeing it. It's all coming back to me. Yeah.
The deja vu makes sense.
It makes sense now.
You're reassured that it's not a glitch in the Matrix?
Well, I thought I might have fallen through an alternate dimension, but maybe my memories are just now filling through. Hope the other guy's okay.
I feel like I missed a critical piece of information.
Never mind.
The joke
Never mind. This is that Video James podcast, right?
This is a Video James podcast, where we talk about our best friend, Video James. Now, you've seen Video James recently, right?
Just this afternoon.
How's he been?
All right. I mean, I don't know. We mostly just talked about video games, so I didn't really ask how he was.
Okay, not the direction I was expecting you to take it. We're going to move on.
Okay.
This is a show, for real though, about video games, and the video games that we've been playing over the course of the week. So, Mark, why don't you start us off by telling us what you've been playing this week, which I understand is maybe not the most.
Do you remember last week when you asked me what I was looking forward to playing, and I said, I'm not sure.
Yep.
Yeah. I played a little bit more of Assassin's Creed Black Flag. That's kind of been it. I haven't done much video gamesing this week. I did thankfully finally get up to the bit of the pirate game where you can actually be a pirate, but only just. I'm now at the point where you can be a pirate, but in order to unlock any new piratey things, you have to progress further in the main story. So, still got to put that hard work in.
You're like a half pirate at this point.
I can technically get in a ship and shoot things, but I can't like upgrade the ship or anything like that.
What's the fucking point?
Progressing further in the main story.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, no, it's been enough for me to form some opinions, so that's nice. It's been nice being a pirate, but unsurprisingly, it's not all exactly what I expected. That world feels, I don't want to say small, because the map is quite expansive, but everything feels real close together. I can't go for like 20 seconds without finding someone who's been left in a raft, and then also 3 other people who I have to pick up because they're in rafts nearby, 20 meters from the shore, waving at me.
Help!
There's a lot of video gamesy stuff in that pirate game that reminds me I'm not a real pirate, I'm playing a video game. And it's not what I was looking for, so that's a little annoying. It's just jam-packed full of stuff to get you points.
It seems a lot like Far Cry 5 in that regard, which I played a little bit of, and it's just like, stuff is fucking constantly happening.
Yeah, you're not the first person to tell me that.
Someone described it as like the perfect game for people with short attention spans because a thing is just happening. I forget who that actually was. I believe you may have even told me about that.
That is sounding like how my brother described it to me, so I may have told you about that.
I believe you have. I believe that is where I have gotten this quote from.
Yeah.
It's from you telling me about.
It's like
it's a third-hand quote.
But no, having not played the game, that's the impression I've got as well. I mean, I've seen that a bit before in Far Cry 2, where I've talked about you can drive through the section, kill people, and then, I need to go back, turn around, and there's people there again. It's happened in Far Cry games for a bit. But yeah, no, Black Flag feels more like that than I expected. There's a lot of stuff everywhere. When sometimes I just want to like sail in a boat for a few minutes and listen to my crew sing their shanty without getting in a fight or finding 12 people on rafts.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been fun. I kind of can't help but resent the fact that I feel like I'm putting work into it by doing the story in order to get to be a pirate, whereas obviously the whole game should be something I enjoy. Part of that, of course, is that I borrowed this game because I just want to be a pirate, not because I want Assassin's Creed story. So I can put some of that on me.
Right.
But yeah, I had the second bit of being out of the Animus and walking around the fake games development studio, and I just wanted to get back to being a pirate the whole time.
Do what you want, because a pirate is free.
Yeah.
You are a pirate, sort of, halfway there. You're halfway to being a pirate.
I mean, I'm a pirate, I just can't do much.
Yeah. Pretty fucking useless pirate.
It shows me all the things I will in the future be able to buy to customize my ship.
Okay.
and all of them say you must progress further in the main story. So I guess I'll do that at some point. But yeah, no, that's the only thing. Oh no, I also played a little bit more Monster Hunter because I had a friend around and I got to show it to him for the first time. He hasn't seen it before.
Yep.
I don't really have anything new.
Speaking of which, look behind you.
Nice.
Yeah, there's just a Monster Hunter World poster that I have acquired now.
Cool.
So like, I'm gonna get around to that game pretty soon.
Good. Let me know when you do. When I do,
I was gonna say, do you wanna?
Yeah. I absolutely do.
And then we can talk about it. But yeah, the Pirate game, as Queen of Blaze in the chat is describing it as, pirates, like pirates.
I haven't seen it. I did see another cat and got angry again at the fact that I can't pet
You can't pet the cats, but you can pet like every other animal.
Well, no, you can shoot every other animal. You can pet the dogs.
And
birds. I haven't seen any birds.
You can pet birds.
Okay.
It's good.
Actually, yeah, no, the first animal the game made me shoot was an ocelot, which is a type of cat. So that was annoying. I don't really want to shoot the cat.
No, yeah.
But you had to proceed, so... I don't know, there's a lot of games that make you shoot people to proceed, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean... there are moral quandaries, shall we say, to either of those options. They're both kind of morally wrong. Yeah. Fucking video games.
Speaking of morally wrong, what have you been playing this week?
Oh, I've been sinning all over. Trust me. I've been a heathen and played God of War.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, like I put some time into God of War. Weird.
How have you been finding it?
I have mixed thoughts.
Okay.
A little bit, I think.
Yep.
I think probably some of this comes from my lack of history with the God of War series. It's not a series I've really played or picked up before.
Yeah, that's very similar to me.
Well, I think you actually mentioned that you have played some, but I have zero experience.
Like 1 or 2 sessions with some of the old games. I don't even remember which ones. So I have some, but little, but not none. You're right.
See, I have got none. So coming in, it was a fresh experience coming in. It's very, very gorgeous. The sound design is very gorgeous, but man, oh man, I do not like the way that Kratos interacts with his son to start out.
Yeah, he's not a good dad, eh?
No, not a good dad. Just miserable. Just a real miserable dude, and it's like very hard for me to actually watch.
Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of the epitome of a lot of the things that are wrong with masculinity, and it's hard when part of his history is representing that as though it were a good thing. I mean, they've games that have had ultra-violence all through them, and now you give him a kid and see how he reacts, I suppose. The story is, you could loosely put it as him becoming a slightly worse bad dad. That is the opposite of what I meant to say. A slightly less bad dad.
Okay.
I'm going to stop saying the opposite of what I mean. That'll be useful.
It might be useful in communicating your thoughts here.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. But like, yeah, I just don't like his interactions right now, and it's making it kind of a slog.
Yeah, there are a couple of bits where it makes it a bit more bearable in retrospect, but no, I agree. Yeah. There's
a couple of little touching details, but like the connection between him and his son definitely isn't there, and he's not willing to express any connection either. He's just very much like the environment, very cold, very icy towards him.
I actually got the impression early in the game, and I don't think this is true because I feel like it would have been actually talked about if it were. But right at the beginning of the game, I felt like he'd just shown up and met his kid for the first time because they really felt like they didn't know each other.
Yeah, like...
Yeah?
I think it was very clear that, like...
He didn't raise her.
Atreus' only real connection to anyone was with his mother.
Mm.
And so, like, Atreus is very, very clearly devastated by that loss still. And Kratos is very impartial and not even willing to explain, like... right at the beginning of the game, there's the trees that are marked, right? He's not even willing to go as far as to explain to his son, like, what those are. And I'm sure it'll come up at a later moment.
It does get mentioned I can't remember how early. I'm actually surprised that it hadn't been mentioned yet, but it might have been a slightly later point.
Okay. So, a couple other things in that game, though.
Mm-hmm.
The axe, mechanically, that thing is super cool.
Right?
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it to be half as cool as it was. Because I was just like, it's just, an axe, whatever. I haven't really been paying attention or seeing it in motion. You can throw it around. You can freeze things with it. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah, it's how you solve puzzles.
Yeah,
really
that is like the axe as a tool for exploration and combat in that game it's brilliant.
And it feels great, right? Sounds great.
It feels so good. It's got a nice satisfying thunk.
Have you done that thing where you pull it back and it hits an enemy on the way back?
Yes,
yeah,
many times.
Yes.
I was watching a little bit of analysis from Game Maker's Toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
A guy named Mark Brown who runs that channel,
mm-hmm.
and he was talking about the way that the axe actually will adjust itself if it's near any enemies when you recall it.
I've noticed that as well.
It will very, very subtly try to go through anything near it.
You can particularly notice it when an enemy's on the ground. The axe doesn't normally swoop along the ground, but it will go down to hit them. Yeah, I noticed that while playing it, and it makes sense. It makes it feel better, because otherwise you'd be going, oh, it was so close.
Or it's just like recalling wildly out into the corner. Like when you're solving the environment puzzles, it's usually going to be recalling like, whoop.
Yeah, there was only one time I think where I was frustrated by its recall pattern, and there is one puzzle at one point in the game which is an optional puzzle, and you can only solve it by recalling the axe through something.
Okay.
And it just took me like 3 or 4 times to get the positioning right because it wasn't attracted to the thing it needed to hit. But that's the only time I've been at all bothered, and it wasn't really a big deal anyway.
Right, yeah. Something that I've definitely noticed as I've been going through as well I've been irritated when I've gone the right way.
Yes,
there's so much.
Point. Yeah,
there's so much in every little nook and cranny of God and War that I just want to go and poke around and explore all of it. And so when I accidentally go the wrong way,
by which you mean the right way, right?
When I accidentally go the wrong way. Or the right way.
See, it feels wrong because you don't want to proceed until you've gone down that end and got the chest or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like it is the wrong way, but it is the right way to continue the story.
So that's particularly present in the early parts of the game. The bit you told me before the show that you got up to, that it opens out a bit more from there, so there's less of that from there because it's just less linear. There's still some of it. But no, I didn't think to mention it on the show, but I noticed the exact same thing. You always feel like you want to check both ways. It's like playing Uncharted and you don't want to miss a treasure and you're like, wait, no, which way am I supposed to go? Because I should go the other way first because I'm not going back.
I didn't play Uncharted in that way, or The Last of Us, which also offered those same style of collectibles. But I found myself really wanting to poke at everything in God of War.
Yeah, I did it more in the early Uncharted games, but the ones I played more recently, 4 and Lost Legacy, I didn't feel compelled to, is this the right way? Is this the wrong way? So I think they've improved in that. But yeah, no, this is definitely something I noticed in God of War. What did you think the first time you saw him open a wooden chest?
Open a wooden chest? I don't remember any of the wooden ones.
Okay, because I really remember the first time I found a chest in the game, and I went up to it, and there was a button prompt, and I thought, okay, he'll open this chest, and he punched through the lid and pulled something out. Because he couldn't be bothered opening it, it was easier to punch through the lid.
I think I've mostly just run into stone chests, actually.
Yeah, the wooden chests don't have as good stuff in them, but they're dotted around. They're smaller.
Okay.
You'll notice one. I'm sorry if I just spoiled the surprise for you, but the first one I was like, oh, he'll open it. No, he smashes it.
I mean, that checks out. It is Kratos. I found lots of the orbs that you were mentioning last week, though. The weird
orbs?
The crystal orbs.
Yeah. I think those have been in previous games, but I don't think they've always been crystals.
In an actual orb form?
I think so. I'm not a God of War expert, so I may be wrong about that. I haven't got
you're the closest thing that we have to an expert on this podcast, which is to say that neither of us are particularly the experts here. No, that game is good. I have been enjoying my time with God of War in spite of my dislike of Kratos as just a dude. It's real smart. For those who want to know how far I've made it would the location count as a...
I mean, if you haven't got to it, you won't know what it means.
Alright, that's fair. I have made it to the Lake of Nine. and have met a particular character there that I was really impressed by. That game does scale really well. There's another location immediately before the Lake of the Nine, which shows off the scale, like that they're working with here tremendously. There is a very large creature.
Yeah, I thought that was what you're referring to.
You know the one I'm talking about,
I
think. Because you've met a couple people in that location, and you also see this big thing. At a distance, I thought it was going to be a lot smaller than it was, and then as you get closer and realize exactly how big it is, like, that reveal is really, really, really impressive to me.
Yeah, scale is... I can't remember if I mentioned on the show before, but the two emotions it feels like the game is trying to make you feel is anger, because Kratos is angry at everything all the time.
Forever.
And awe at just things being big and impressive, and I think it does that feeling pretty well of, oh wow, that's huge.
I do not disagree with you. That is, it's a real strong point of this game. It's not a strong point of a lot of games. Even like the vistas that are revealed in God of War, just all of the views are so gorgeous.
So you just reminded me of something about Monster Hunter. When Monster Hunter World came out, and a lot of people, particularly people who write about games, had seen it for pretty much the first time, they were talking about how large the monsters felt. I didn't feel any of that. I don't know if that's just because I was used to them being around that size compared with me or what. But there was an interesting contrast in how some people would feel the scale, and I didn't really, because I was just used to it. Because, a lot of times in a video game, you're fighting a monster, it's bigger than you, but it doesn't feel big.
No, because there's a power differential there.
Whereas in God of War, if things are big, they feel big. They're really, really big.
Yeah, it feels like even some of the early big enemies, I think, safe to mention, trolls.
It's been in all of the trailery stuff.
It's even on the cover.
Yeah, there you go.
Trolls are, like, they feel big. They feel like they are hard targets. Like, feels good. Was a bit perplexed by the first troll fight, though, because they have what appear to be big fucking glowing weak points, and they are not. Nope. They don't do anything.
I'll be honest, I never figured out how the proper way to fight a troll. Okay. I don't know if there is one. I don't know if there's a strategy aside from just hit it a bunch and don't get hit.
Yeah, it seems like that is the
yeah. I think
strategy.
They were the least fun enemies to fight for me, because the other enemies, at least, there are a few things you could do with them, like you could knock them around and into the air and stuff. With a troll, like, the only way you can do that is throw your axe at its head, and if it's not in a certain animation, you can, like, knock its head back a little bit.
Yeah, even the first boss that you run into is, like, so much more thrilling than the first troll that you encounter.
So the trolls, except there's one that was interesting, which you'll hit eventually. Most of them, I didn't find them that fun, because it's, okay, I'll hit it a bunch. And it's not like Monster Hunter, where, yes, the strategy is hit it a bunch and don't get hit.
Yep.
There's a lot more interesting ways to hit it a bunch and not get hit in Monster Hunter compared with God of War. It feels like a lot of the movesets are made for fighting smaller enemies or more enemies.
I think that tracks.
So nothing really felt heavy or super effective against the troll, except that nice feeling where you throw your axe in its head and it goes, "Arr!" and leans back. So I ended up most of the time just throw the axe, recall it, throw the axe, recall it, throw the axe, recall it, and that's the whole fight for me.
That was basically my, like, strategy, and, like, occasionally using Atreus to get an arrow in there and distract, just so I could, like, get away, get some space, and then go back to throwing my axe. And that feels like a not fun way to fight those enemies.
I don't really get it. A lot of other enemies have, like, you recognize the right, in air quotes, strategy to fight them, or like the most effective one, and then at least you can feel like you've solved a puzzle with it. If there's a puzzle to solve with the trolls, I didn't solve it.
Yeah, I wonder if that's maybe a factor of, like, hey, maybe something's poorly communicated, or hey, something is communicated deceptively, or
there might be some
the mechanic is just way too precise.
Piece of background knowledge from previous God of War games we're both missing, perhaps. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not sure.
All I knew is there was what looked like big glowing weak points, and they did not seem to do anything.
Yeah. When you can only really reach its knees, it feels like it would make sense to do something. Like, I was thinking of a Prince of Persia Warrior Within Enemy Type. It's an older game where it's around the same size as the trolls compete with you, and what you're supposed to do is circle around behind, hit it in the backs of the cards a few times, it'll go down on one knee and you can climb on it and do stuff. And I thought maybe it's something like that, but it's no, that never worked when I tried it. So yeah, never figured out quite if there was a right or interesting way to fight them. Hopefully you'll figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully.
if there is one, again,
it would be nice.
Yeah, there may not be one that feels that way, which would be a bit of a shame because the design's quite cool.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of a spot on an otherwise like really, really well designed set of mechanics and
yeah, fights. I didn't have that problem with any other enemy types that I can think of. So
how'd you find difficulty?
There were a couple of points in the game where I had to try several times, but for the most part I was okay. I think I don't finish the fights very quickly. I tend to be quite a cautious player. I'll do a lot of dodging around. Whereas I'm sure that it's possible to finish the fights a lot faster than I did.
Potentially.
But there were a few spots I found more difficult. There's one in particular, which is where the last time I stopped for my final session, and then when I came back, I had to try like 4 times to get past it, because there were multiple of a particularly annoying enemy for me to fight. But for the most part, I think it was okay.
Okay.
How have you found the difficulty?
I've died a couple times, but that's kind of been the extent of things right off the start. Just kind of like learning my way through the mechanics and figuring out how things actually work. But now that I've mostly got that out of the way, it should be pretty smooth sailing from this point on, I think.
There's one point I can think of where there's an oddly high level enemy that's in a side area, and I died like 4 times against it before I decided I just won't go there.
Yeah, probably fair.
Yeah,
it's probably like hey, come back later, and there's this thing.
I think I know what you were supposed to wait for before coming back, but to explain that would be to spoil things.
Sure. Having a look at that open world map, though, like one thing that I think I will miss from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild in so many open world games is its like stamp system that it's got. So what you can do in Breath of the Wild is it's got 2 ways that you can navigate through the world.
Okay.
The first is through pins. Pins are visible at any time when you look through your binoculars, essentially. So you can see them off in the distance as a pillar of light. But they're not visible otherwise.
Okay.
They're also highlighted on the mini-map around the edges if you have that turned on. Stamps are just, you can put locations on a map on your own, essentially, based on predefined characteristics. So let's say I have found a campfire or a cooking pot somewhere out in the world of Breath of the Wild, and it's not marked on the map. It's not near any major location. But I can take out my map and I can put my own marker there, saying, hey, there's an interesting thing here.
That's something I always wished I could do when I was playing Oblivion, like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's such a, after playing it in Breath of the Wild, it seems like such a basic thing that should be in open world games with any sort of focus on exploration.
The feeling of marking stuff on a map yourself is really satisfying. Games always... oh, we've added this to your map for you, and it never feels like something you've done. I wish there were ways to like draw a route you've discovered on your map yourself or something. But I mean, I can understand why it's not, because it would be a pain in the ass to a lot of other players. But I'd like that. And this stamp thing you're describing sounds like it would be really cool in games like, I mean, Oblivion's an older one, but Fallout 4 as well, where you can discover something that's interesting but doesn't have a map marker, but you might want to come back to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, The Witcher also has this, like, there are so many other games that have these locations that are just, oh, this is a neat thing. And there are no easy ways to get back to it or remember where it was.
Yeah.
So the markers and pins are such a great way to navigate. I really liked what pins let me do for navigating the world in general in Legend of Zelda, because what I could do is I would set out a row of 5 pins in locations that I wanted to go to.
Okay.
Just like, oh, I know I've never been there. Let's go check it out. Or, and I may as well stop over here because I've got a quest to do, and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would mark all of those out, and then I would call my horse, and I would go on a road trip. And that would be the thing that I would do. It's great. It felt very natural for me to say, okay, I want a point on I've got a point on the map. I don't have a route. I will have to make all of the route myself, but I know exactly where I want to be.
Have you played Shadow of the Colossus?
No, I have not yet played Shadow of the Colossus.
We're
waiting on getting the remake.
What you're describing now is reminding me of that.
Okay.
So if you enjoy what you've just described, I think you'll enjoy that part of that game as well.
All right.
Without spoiling anything.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, we've been eyeing the remake a little bit, so.
I mean, I've played the original, which I gather the remake is very similar to, which is good, and it's great.
Yeah, I believe it's based off a lot of the same assets, but put into a more modern engine.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well.
So it ends up being quite a similar experience. Which
I think is what they were aiming for. But yeah,
it's exactly just what you want out of a
when
game
you're remaking
like
a game that's considered a classic. Yeah, absolutely.
If you're you can't fuck with the formula too much there.
Yeah. I wonder what's happening with the Final Fantasy VII remake. But anyway.
Well, I mean, I could tell you, I still think it's after a no-show at E3, I feel like it's vaporware. I don't as far as I'm concerned, because Cyberpunk has now shown up.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I'm concerned, if Final Fantasy VII Remake doesn't show up at Tokyo Game Show, which is a major Japanese games show, if it doesn't show up there, I'm considering the project effectively dead in the water.
Oh no, they took 10 years to make Final Fantasy 15. I would be surprised if this takes a long time.
Which is what Ash has been saying as well, but I really I don't believe it at this point. Not with Square Enix taking out time for their own dedicated conference at E3 and then not showing anything from Final Fantasy VII Remake.
I will not be surprised if it's effectively on hold.
I mean, they were...
And that may turn into being nothing. I didn't mean to open the can of worms.
Oh, no, they were trying to hire senior staff for less than $40,000 per annum.
That's not much.
No, it is not. That was what Square Enix's brilliant plan was, to try and hire senior staff for less than a living wage for a programming job for one of the most beloved...
Let's revisit this in a decade or two and see where it's at.
I mean, sure. I mean, we could even just revisit it later this year after it doesn't appear at Tokyo Game Show, and I'm like, it's dead!
Where were we before I accidentally threw a grenade? It's like when you think you realize you're thinking about something really weird and try to figure out how you got there. How did we get here?
We got here because you mentioned the remake, obviously. Yeah. We were just talking about the Shadow of the Colossus remake. And
yes. And I mentioned that because you were talking about your Zelda road trips, and you talked about that because you're talking about the map in God of War.
Yes.
Okay.
I like the art style on that, by the way. The art style on the map in God of War is
I did too.
Really
it's great. Like a war table kind of thing, like miniatures.
Yeah, it's miniatures.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's really nice.
And it's nice how recognizable the areas are, but while stylized.
I agree. I don't have much more to contribute to that. It's really just nice. But yeah, we did get off on a bit of a tangent, as we tend to do on this show.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
No. So yeah, the bit where you've reached, the exploration angle is going to be a bit different in your next session and going forward, I think.
Okay.
Because it's all pretty linear up to that point, and from there you have a bit more of an opportunity to explore, which the game very clearly says to you that you have the opportunity to explore.
I mean, the fact that I got a compass, even just
implies
that much implied, this game is about to start opening up in ways that I wasn't really
Yeah. There are times at which Atreus literally goes, hey, we could explore if we want to, and it's like, oh, okay. The game is telling me that I can take time to explore.
Okay.
And or there's new areas to explore. So yeah, you can go poke around a little bit.
Good to know. Atreus is real neat.
Yeah. He's got a bit of an arc, which I won't say anything about now.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll do a spoiler cast.
Yeah. Let's come back and do a whole bunch more once you've
we haven't done a lot of Patreon bonuses lately, so maybe we should actually do a spoiler cast this time.
Sure, it's a game I've actually finished that comes up pretty rarely.
There you go. So, Mark, I'd like to talk to you about another video game that's not God of War.
Okay.
I'd like to talk to you about Celeste.
That's the game we're going to be playing in the after show, right?
Yes, the game that we will actually play in the after show this week.
Yeah.
After last week, I was just wiped. So, we will actually be playing it on stream this week.
So you've played it before. I've seen like a very little bit of it, but I haven't played it before.
Okay. So that game was good.
Cool.
I want to let you know that
it looks real nice. It's real nice pixel art in that game, and the movement looks real fluid with it as well.
Yeah, and one thing I really appreciate on that note is it really, really interestingly blends a pixel art main game with really, really gorgeously illustrated UI and some 3D elements in the UI
right.
as
I remember
well.
seeing that because you told me it was pixel art, and then you opened it up, and I was like, "Wait,
yeah,
it was like pixel art."
Yeah, it was like low poly 3D stuff. Like that stuff is gorgeous, and it also has like gorgeous illustrated bits of UI.
Okay, I don't remember seeing that.
That's for conversations, so you're going to see that a little bit later tonight.
Okay.
But it's a really fascinating blend of two styles that are pretty juxtaposed. So yeah, I really enjoy that as a visual touch. It's really well executed and works nice.
Nice.
Another thing that game does really well for soundtrack. I'm gonna get that out of the way.
Okay.
The music is gorgeous, and it also really, really smartly handles the introduction of various mechanics.
I'm sure I'll see that soon enough.
You will see that soon enough. I'm going to, with your permission,
go for it.
Talk about one mechanic that it introduces in a really natural way that I think is interesting and neat. So when you come into one of the very earliest screens in that game, there is a collectible item just called a strawberry.
This is the one that you showed me last time, is it?
Is it?
Mechanic? Anyway, no, you go on. I will know when you
I don't know.
it.
So there is an optional collectible within the game called strawberry.
Yeah.
You can collect strawberries, and most of the time when you land on solid ground or return to the place where you started having to do a little bit of movement, you will automatically collect the strawberry, but it'll hover over you until you actually get back there or get onto solid ground.
Okay.
One variation on that mechanic that the game introduces is a flying strawberry.
Yeah, this is what I was thinking about. Yep.
It is? Okay. So the flying strawberry, there are a couple of signs by that first flying strawberry that indicate that you cannot dash. It's subtle, you could miss it, but as soon as you dash, the strawberry will fly away. And you'd have to reset the screen in order to get it. It's introduced pretty naturally, and it's clearly signposted, and not only that, it's in a fairly safe level to try for it.
Yeah.
And that is something that I think Celeste does really well over the course of the game. There are lots of mechanics that it introduces in a way that allows you to poke at the mechanic very, very easily and see what the effects of the mechanic are, and then start fiddling around with them, and then it'll start making those puzzles and playing with the mechanic more in depth. But that it allows you to explore those mechanics in a relatively safe manner first is really nice.
It's interesting. This is a common thing in games, which I think it's a good thing. Like you see it in, I want to say Portal, but the main thing I'm thinking of is games where it's a dangerous mechanic. Often when you first see a particularly dangerous enemy, you will be in a position where you're watching it attack someone else, so you see what its abilities are to start with, or something like that. It's something I've tried and struggled to bring into D&D, actually. A way of showing off something without putting the players at risk immediately, but it's different when you're just describing something and they can't interact with it, or having a way for them to interact with it limitedly. Still haven't quite nailed down how that can work well there, but yeah, no, I've seen this kind of thing in other games, showing off a new mechanic or a new enemy type in a way where it doesn't immediately endanger the player.
What if you... this is just a thought that maybe could work. What if you had it introduced through something like a journal that was... Hang on.
Okay.
The journal, you start out by reading it as if you're recalling a story, and then you put your players into the roles described in the story, so you have the correct amount of characters to fill out their party and allow them to explore a little bit of the mechanics of a particularly dangerous monster, perhaps, if someone has some knowledge around it.
I've done similar stuff. I've done a vision. One of the characters has some prophetic powers, so they had a vision, which we did as a session, and everyone played different characters. Journals I'm trying to avoid because everyone in my group is kind of aware, and we joke fairly regularly about Oblivion or Skyrim journals, where it reads along the lines of, we're in a cave, and then the next entry is like, there's a ghost in the cave with us, and the next one is, a ghost ate my friend's face, oh no, and then the next one is, and they die.
Oh yeah, that's also what Fallout does.
Yeah, so I got to watch out for that sort of thing, because I think that is...
Well, when I was saying journal, I was just meaning as a method to introduce that flashback.
So I've really got an established way in which I could do that sort of thing, and I've done it once before. I don't want to overuse it. Part of the reason is it's a bunch of work for either me or them to make those new characters.
Right.
I don't like to impose characters on them too much, because the first time I did it, it's kind of experiment, and one of the bits of feedback I got from them was that they more enjoyed making their own characters.
What about a dream sequence where they still maintained control over their characters?
I've done that once. I didn't really feel it too much. I didn't get into it too much. I got to do a little bit of the exposing to danger without worrying too much stuff, and the side story stuff we've done in the previous 6 months. But it's something that this concept of showing something first in a way that lets people observe it and then deal with it is something I've come back to think about again and again of different ways to do it. And it's something that video games can do really well.
Yeah, totally. Mostly because, like, I feel like in situations where a video game wants to do that, it takes a layer of control away from the player.
Yeah.
There is some layer of artifice between you and the monster.
I'm thinking of a particular scene in Prey near the start where I'm tossing up in my head whether I should say I won't spoil anything or if I should just warn people I'm about to spoil something.
I think warn people that you're about to spoil.
I'm about to spoil something near the beginning of Prey, so skip ahead a little bit if you don't want to hear it. But one of the enemies in that game is a mimic, which mimics objects.
Yes.
And the first time you see that is you're watching through a glass plane as someone's coffee mug kills them.
Yep.
So you learn, without being threatened yourself, this is a thing. Because you see it appear and turn into a coffee mug real quick, and then he goes, why do I have 2 mugs? Blah, and dies.
Yeah.
That sort of thing where they show it off. It was. I thought of that example because it was really clear what they were doing. They were literally putting a window
There's
between
a pane
you
of
and
glass
thing.
between you and them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could Jurassic Park kind of situations be... like, Jurassic Park, I feel like, introduces the dinosaurs as a threat and shows them, like, mucking up a fence or something like that, and, like, mucking up highly constructed things before it actually ever endangers the characters in that.
I think it's different in a medium where there's no input from the audience. But yeah, you want to build suspense. You don't want something to just immediately bite the protagonist's face off. You have to show first that it bites people's faces off, and then be like, "Ooh, is it going to bite the protagonist's face off?" And everyone gets scared, and then it happens or doesn't happen.
I think that also might tie into a thought that I had recently around, I think the type of horror games that I tend to enjoy.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, I've played a bunch of horror titles in more recent years, and I think I've figured out which kind of horror titles I like, because I've bounced off Amnesia.
Mm-hmm.
And I've bounced off some other titles as well, but I think this also applies to movies too. Like, I've bounced off some horror films, but I've really enjoyed some others. And I think it's because I don't like horror without hope. I think that is maybe... I like being scared.
Amnesia's whole thing was you have no weapons.
Yeah.
All you can do is try to escape.
You have no real way to fight against it. And that is ultimately maybe... Like, it's more terrifying, but it doesn't click with me.
I've wondered occasionally about... Because I own that game.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know why I own that game.
Probably
I think
got it in a humble bundle.
Probably. But I tried playing it once. Didn't last long. I didn't even see the monster.
Yeah.
But I wonder if maybe the way I should start a game like that, if I were to play one, would be to... Okay, try to make the worst possible thing happen. Because that way I'm trying to do it so I won't be scared of it. And then I will have seen it. And then I won't be scared of it. Except I will totally still be scared of it.
Exactly. I mean, the idea is you don't want the worst possible thing to happen.
No, but if you make it your goal, then at least it's like, oh, no, the monster caught me. You can see what happens.
I think it just... Having some avenue with which you can fight against a thing, I think that ultimately makes horror more interesting for me to watch, even if it means like, oh, like, we're trying to fight against this thing and it's not working and we need to explore all these different tactics. Whereas if it is a thing that it feels like sometimes there's just a thing that you can do nothing about and it's going to destroy you, and that's the kind of horror that I think I utterly despise. I think that's the point. I think that's what I figured out about my taste in that genre.
Okay. I just don't like being scared. I'm not a horror fan.
The thing about me being scared too, and this is the reason I don't stream horror games, is I get scared, but the most you get out of me is like, huh.
You've heard me yelp playing Dying Light, and it's not really a hugely scary game.
No, I have, yeah. Like, the most you get out of me is a little bit of a,
Yeah.
But, that's not very interesting. I don't scream. I don't have any of the kind of, like, overly dramatic YouTuber tendencies, I will describe them as.
Okay, I was thinking of, like, people playing video games and TV shows.
I mean, okay, yeah, actually, that's also a really good explanation. I don't have that kind of reaction. It's just not me. And so, like, to watch me play a horror game would be pretty boring by comparison to that, because it's not as funny or anything to watch me just, oh, I'm going to deal with this now. There's nothing like... I would describe some of the stream stuff that I do as, like, dangerously chill. Like, I'm going through Diablo, talking in a very, very calm, just, like, quiet voice. I'm not getting hyped about stuff. It's just kind of calm, quiet, going through all this chaos. And...
Well, it's like, I don't know if this was on or off the show, but you were talking to me probably last week about the fake gamer talk during E3 stuff.
Yeah, I think this would have been last week as we were talking about E3.
And how sometimes they can sound pretty hyped, but people don't tend to play games that way. I mean, some will, surely. People are different. But usually, if you're playing a game with someone with a headset on, you're not going to sound super dramatic. You're going to be like, oh, watch out, I saw someone going around behind you or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Or there'll be some, like, panicked moment when, like, you realize, oh shit, it's right behind you!
Yeah.
The thing.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Although,
you'll stutter over yourself like 50 times, and then your teammate will be dead, and they'll just be like, "I saw it. I'm sorry." Yeah. We did talk about this last week, but I still think generally, like, the fake gamer chat, as fake as it is, it tends to bother me less than some other things in game trailers.
Yeah, I think I'm bothered less by it than most people, but I still see it along that same continuum of, like, actual people playing games, people pretending to people, I don't know if they're actually playing it or pretending to play it in that presentation, and then people pretending to play games in a TV show or movie.
I feel like it's probably them still actually, like, they're potentially still actually playing it. They're just running on
script.
Enough of a script or through a highly scripted sequences. Like, it just feels insincere. Where if you got actual people in there, it would be very, very different. Or it could just go all horribly wrong. Like, EA had a terrible presentation last year because they leaned on a lot of their quote-unquote influencers for the to present their biggest games. And so, like, you have...
I'm going to not hear... These are going to be a lot of people I haven't heard
No,
of,
I'm not even going to name them because I have no idea who any of these people are. But there was a guy who presented, like, the next Need for Speed game last year. And... was pausing for like 10 seconds at a time.
Like to allow applause that didn't happen?
No, not even that. Just like, all right, we're here to show you Need for Speed. Not even like awkwardly, just like
nervously.
No, like just sputtering out like a word at a time, not really knowing. It's just like sitting there smiling like this.
Oh, okay.
Like it was just a thoroughly weird.
Perhaps they were talking really fast beforehand and told to slow down and took it to heart too much.
I mean, it's very possible, yeah.
So I hate to think how I'd do if I were up on that stage.
Well, I mean, you just infamously are not very good at public speaking. Neither am I.
I give talks. I've tended to okay, I think.
I think that's true.
The phone I hate. Phone I'm not good at.
Phone anxiety is the fucking worst. It's so bad.
Yeah.
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 I don't like taking phone calls.
Nope.
Just email me, please. That's all I need. Just email me. Shout out to employers who do email me and don't call me first and just let me get to it on my own time.
Or just anyone who needs to talk on the phone, because it does happen occasionally,
Yeah,
who at
totally
least
does.
gives me a heads up via email first. Or asks, when are you free? And I can psych myself up for it at least.
I've called you impromptu a couple of times.
It's a lot.
It's a different vibe, I guess, when you're just calling up a friend.
I still get nervous with that, but it's when it would be an adversarial phone call. That's when I really never want to do it.
Yeah, no.
Like, even when it's like I could do face-to-face. Anyway.
I would rather have an adversarial conversation face-to-face.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, that feels way less risky to me, even, than a phone conversation. Because that layer of abstraction just feels...
Yeah, I don't like it.
We've gotten sidetracked.
We've gotten very sidetracked. We don't like the phone.
But we don't mind video games.
No, video games are good.
Voice chat and video games, it's kind of like...
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. That doesn't bother me at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I get a little bit anxious
think
about
it
myself.
Normally when we record, we're not in the same room. I don't get anxious about talking to you
okay, let's broaden the scope here.
Okay.
Voice chat in video games where it's like a team-based game and like that sort of communication.
Oh, if it was with people I don't know, I always turn voice chat off.
Okay.
Always, 100%.
Yeah, I'm some games that I play, I have to have it on, so it's just kind of...
Yeah, I don't play games like that.
I'm occasionally in just a weird anxiety pit.
Yeah.
Social anxiety ahoy. Did you have much else to...
No, like I said, I've only really played Black Flag, and I think I've gone through my thoughts on that.
In that case, shall we wrap up for the week?
Sure.
All right. Thank you very much for listening. Before we go...
What are you looking forward to playing this week?
I am looking forward to playing more Celeste. I've been having a tremendous time with that. I streamed a bunch of it last night. The VOD is up if you'd like to check that out. Video on demand.
Okay.
So I did a stream of that, and we'll also be streaming the first 2 levels, hopefully. We'll see. Tonight. So if you're interested in seeing Celeste in motion with Mark at the helm, stay tuned. I'm also looking forward to playing some more God of War. I'm very, very interested in seeing where that game goes.
Nice.
Well, with that then, shall we end the show? Oh, did I skip you?
Yeah.
God damn it! What are you looking forward to playing this week?
I don't know why I pointed it out because it's kind of similar last week. I'm looking forward to playing Celeste very shortly.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I've got kind of the same thing as last week, where I'm spending a lot of my evenings doing stuff that's not video games. So I don't know what I'm going to play. I'll probably end up picking up Black Flag again and progressing a little further.
I might pull you aside later in the weekend because Diablo Season 14 has started.
Yeah, no.
With a theme.
Oh.
So, since you don't already know, this is a new thing. This first themed season is called the Season of Greed.
Okay.
Not only do treasure goblin spawns seem to have been increased generally, but each time one spawns, it spawns 2 goblins.
So you definitely want 2 people around.
Yeah, definitely you want 2 people around to be controlling those goblins.
Yeah,
so
I'm totally keen to do another Diablo season, so that sounds great, actually.
Yeah, I've got a monk spun up and partway through.
It's the sort of game I'm feeling like playing. So has the season started already?
Yeah, season's on.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
How far's your monk?
Not. So, level 14.
Okay, yeah. If you don't progress too much farther, I won't be too far behind.
Well, I mean, yeah, in the worst case scenario, I can power level you a little bit. It's fine. We'll get there.
The first 14 levels is like less than a level later on, so. Cool.
So
yeah, I'm looking forward to playing Diablo.
Yeah, cool. We'll get together for that this weekend then.
I can do that, yep.
Cool. All right. Now for real. Thank you very much for listening to this 87th episode of PauseCast. That number is...
Did we just rename our podcast to Podcast?
Yeah. We are Podcast. Thank you for listening to this 87th episode of PauseCast, a show that we do every week about video games. If you like what you heard and would like to support the show, we have a few ways that you can do that. First, you can rate or review the show on your platform of choice. This is iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, wherever. If you can give us a rating or review, it helps us out a lot. So does sharing the show with your friends. If you've enjoyed what you heard, please consider giving that link to someone that you know, love, someone you think might be interested in the show. We'd really appreciate that as well. You can also support the show financially. If you go to bit.ly/pausecoffee, you can go to our coffee page and donate small one-time chunks of money. You can also go to our Patreon. Every month, our show is funded by our patrons. They get little bonuses, including access to exclusive roles on my Discord, which is at discord.bird.school. And we thank you every week. So thank you to our patrons: Sammy, Mary, Para, Dove, Corybat, Rezidoke, Ash, Laminated Moth, and Gray for their continued support of the show.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you also to Leon for the use of our theme song, Honey Milk Island. You can download Leon's music, including some of it that you can download for free, at soundcloud.com/LEYAWN. And that is going to do it for this week's episode. Again, thank you so much for listening. We really, really appreciate it. Bird up. Bye.
Bye.